I think if I hear you call me Becky one more time, six-pack, I'm gonna pop your tops. All six of them.
Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another review, and this is for Grade B, who wanted, both via my PayPal and Patron, a couple reviews, including this one, The Man Without a Face, from around 1993. First off, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who has joined me on both my Patreon and PayPal. If you're interested in joining my Patreon, the link is down below. Certain tiers can give you certain things. Or you do it via my PayPal directly, and you can request pretty much any type of video, review, re-review, topic, commentary, what have you. If not, no worries. But The Man Without a Face I had heard about because it's the first film Mel Gibson directed. And of course he would go on to do Braveheart and Apocalypto, which, whatever. Hacksaw Ridge, which I reviewed. I really enjoyed Hacksaw Ridge. But this was the first one he directed, and he does star in the film. Now, the story is Nick Stahl, which I did not realize. I'm like, that kid looks familiar. Oh, shit. The guy who would be John Connor in Terminator 3. And he's actually pretty good in Terminator 3. And he does a good job here as a kid who daydreams. He has this weird, goofy look on his face, but the movie does mention that's a goofy look. I mean, someone even mentions you get that Barney Fife look that Barney Fife look on your face. It takes place in the late 60s, and the kid's actually a comic book reader, which was cool. He's actually reading Thor, which was that was a fun little thing to have in there. And he has this really shitty family. He has his mom, and then this kind of stepsister, like two sisters, one older, one younger. And the older treats him like shit pretty much the entire movie, these half-sisters. And the mom, I didn't really like her character. I mean, granted, I don't know if you were supposed to like her character, to be honest. So, I don't know if that's really knocked against the movie. But she's either oblivious or just doesn't get it, sort of thing. Which is part of the point, because the kid, he really wants to leave and go to military academy. And this place that they're at, there's this rumor of this guy who lives out in the boonies on this little island, and people are scared of him. Oh, he did this, he did that. And one thing leads to another, and the kid gets there. At one point he loses some books. He goes to get his books back. One thing leads to another, and finds out that this guy used to be a teacher and he wants a tutor. And Mel Gibson, his character, has a fairly scarred up face from burns. And he starts telling the kid weird things like dig holes with certain dimensions. And for some reason the cat here is eating hair. Weird cat. So if you hear any coughing, you'll know why, because this cat was stupid enough to eat a hair. My friend's cat. Sorry, tangent, but just nose caught my head. What are you doing? What can you do? Sorry for that tangent. But he wants a tutor, and Mel Gibson teaches these things, learn or leave, because no consequence to me. one way or the other. And there's some fun dialogue. All stands up a bit to Mel Gibson's theater from time to time. Yeah, other than digging those shithouse holes and writing bullshit. And he flips the pencil. And I thought the strongest part of the movie was the bond between Mel Gibson and this kid. And you see it come to fruition throughout the picture. Because really that's what the movie's about and all the movie has going for it, honestly. Because there's not really anything directing wise. Like, it's competently directed, but nothing that will leave you a bit of impression after the movie's over. The other characters, like you have Jeffrey Lewis, who is in Double Impact and Every Which Way But Loose, and he's sort of a sheriff in the town. You know, the mom, the sisters, they're whatever characters. But these two trying to figure each other out. Like Mel Gibson, is that he's not this horrible creature that people make him out to be, and that Mel Gibson's able to learn to trust again, which is understandable because anytime he lets someone close, they always looked at the star. And it's also a nice lesson on tolerance and not judging people because of their face. And, you know, the kid getting frustrated with what the hell Mel Gibson wants him to do and what's going on. And he wants him to write this paper, and the kid, that's stupid. And all of a sudden he gets pissed. It's like, fine, he writes something. And it's, why Spider-Man sucks worse than the Silver Surfer. First off, that's wrong and bullshit. Spider-Man is not worse than the Silver Surfer. Second off, he starts figuring more stuff, like the reason was making him dig and fill in those holes because he mentioned certain dimensions, and in a way he was teaching him geometry. And they start teaching him poetry, and it's like, don't just read it like that, act it. If you poison us, do we not die? Really good acting performance by Mel Gibson, I'll say that. This is one of the Mel Gibson performances that no one ever talks about, but it's really good. And it was nice to see the film at least for that. Well, two reasons. One, to see Nick Stahl before he did Terminator 3, which again, I don't like Terminator 3, but he wasn't the problem with it. And here, as a kid actor, he did a fairly good job. And two, Mel Gibson gives a really good performance. You know, when he's doing the play and the poetry with feeling, he really gets into it. And I just see why he would go on to do, was it Hamlet? What year did his Hamlet come out? I don't remember. I remember like the poster for it, but I truthfully never saw Mel Gibson's Hamlet. But yeah, I think like Robin Williams and Billy Crystal and such were in it too. I could be wrong on that. But it was a nice little relationship between these two growing. Like, for example, the kid kind of mentions that there was a room where he did pornography, and Mel Gibson laughs about that and instead showcases that he paints. But there's good scenes between the two. One in particular when the kid finds out what really happened to his dad, and he breaks down in front of Mel Gibson, and Gibson tries to cheer him up. That was a nice acting sequence between these two characters. By the third act, sadly, I could see this stuff happening. For example, Mel Gibson, because of the way he looks, people think, and he's hanging out with a kid, they think he's a pedophile, and he's accused. And Mel Gibson has a good scene where, what, is it this? Because if this is all you see, then let me tell you, you don't know me at all. He did a lot better than me. So, again, I would say it's a movie that is extravagant. but at the same time, for what is trying to be a dramatic movie that showcases this friendship between these two, you want to see a good performance by Mel Gibson. You want to see a nice little story about tolerance and not judging people. That, granted, none of the other characters learn, but at least one does learn. The Nick Stahl character. And maybe sometimes that's all it can be, and that's all it needs. And the ending is a little bit bittersweet, but sweet nonetheless. And for a first directing gig for Mel Gibson, because I do like Braveheart, that's just a film I don't really talk about a lot, and I would say I'm not big on, not because it's a bad movie or anything, it just, I'm not a historical epic kind of guy. But even then, I just say, even with that said, I do think Braveheart is a good movie. Unlike Apocalypto, which I know I just pissed off like 100 people, but I'm sorry, I don't like Apocalypto. I said why in that video. I don't get the praise. I don't get the hype. I don't get it. I saw the film. I still don't get it. I'd rather watch Braveheart. Hell, I'd rather watch this movie because I like the story and the actors, the characters more. I'd rather watch Hacksaw Ridge. But that's just me. But it was a nice introduction of Mel Gibson directing. Maybe it's like, hey, I want to start small before I get into any big movies like Hacksaw Ridge or Braveheart. So I didn't understand that. Maybe because, hey, no one's going to... Apparently, he was going to direct it, but he was going to have someone else be the star, whether it be Harrison Ford or Dennis Quaid or Kevin Costner or maybe even Robin Williams. All would have been interesting choices for this kind of role. But again, Mel Gibson did a really nice job with it. Really nice. And I mean, you're not supposed to like the sisters, but there's not really any development on the half sisters, and in a way they're one-dimensional, where the little sister's just annoying and tattletale in a way, and the older sister's just a bitch. The mom, pretty much pig-headed, or not pig-headed, but honestly, I think the mom's a shit for brains in this movie, if you want me to be blunt. A complete other shit for brains, who just wants to have another fucking man, like including Richard Masur from John Carpenter's The Thing and Stephen King's It from 1990, as this almost hippie-like boyfriend with a beard. Well, it's the late 60s, so it pretty much was a hippie. But yeah, the friendship between the two, some of the dialogue they exchange with each other, some really good acting dramatic moments with Mel Gibson and Nick Stahl, it's well worth the watch for that. For a film that no one talks about this movie, no one ever mentions this movie, you probably couldn't find more than 5 reviews of this movie on YouTube. If you do, I'll be surprised. And you know what? Doesn't deserve to be that forgotten. It's not that bad of a movie. So, I'll be curious as to why it's been so forgotten. I mean, I don't love it. Why I don't love it? I don't know. Sometimes this is how it is with movies. You can like a film, you just don't love it for whatever reason. Sometimes they ain't that complicated. But overall, I'm glad I saw it. Thank you so much for that, Grade B. Thank you guys for watching. Take care, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.